If you'd like to follow along just fine, you may need to download this image, which I have attached in the link below. So go ahead and check it out, because we're going to reference it quite as much as we try to achieve this kind of conceptual model. Now let's head over to archicad, and we're going to work in the 3D, basically just in the 3D view. We need to set a few things first, such that you can be able to see whatever I'm trying to do. I'm going to change this background to be black. So how do I achieve that? I'm going to right click and go 3D styles and go 3D styles. And in the settings here, I would like to change to a white model with shadows, because I don't want the textures to come in the way. So we're going to just have a white model, and I'll go ahead and change the background to something black, not completely black, but something like dark something. I'll take that. I add it to custom colors. You can see it's been added right there, and I'll say okay. You can see that it has been added to that background, and as well at the foreground I'm gonna change it to this other color. I say add, okay, and it's been added. All right, so right now we are set. We have a white model that's going to have a background. Say okay, and we are ready to begin. So looking at the reference, we want to first of all declare a platform that's on which this model is going to sit, and do some steps around before we can begin the actual building. So let's begin by a space of about 20 by 20 meters. So with the slab tool, I'm going to go ahead and draw a simple rectangle, which is going to measure 20 by 20. So just go ahead. If you click the first time, it will enable you. So holding down tab, you can put in 20 meters and as well 20 meters. And there we are. And so I'm going to make a copy of this slab just to create some steps. And before that, we may want to change this slab from this to a simple slab, from a composite slab, which is there, to a simple slab. And we reduce its thickness to about 150, which is the height of a step, like a stair step. That's what I mean. And now we need to make a copy of this. Ctrl+Shift+D is the shortcut for that. And we put that copy on top of this one and offset some space to leave some space for the building to breathe, and maybe there. And now we want to create how it will appear. So I'm going to subtract from polygon and remove this section right there. I'm going to do that again. So with clicking on the edge, I will be able to click on subtract from polygon. So I'm able to get rid of a region like this one right here. And I'll go ahead and do the same for this other side. To just pick this random space, and this time I remove a much smaller portion, something like that. And that will do. And we'll make a copy of this, Ctrl+Shift+D, and I'm gonna put it right there, and we'll offset it inward using offset all edges and say by 300. So when we put in 300, there we are. Just a simple step. Tread height, tread length. So we create another copy. We also make it 300. And now you see that that has been created and looks kind of similar to what we have in the reference. We have these steps, this and those as well. So now we want to be able to begin on this form. Let's go ahead and start. So we're going to hold to click on this slab, and we're going to say that we need a form that's gonna be this big, I guess. And with it selected, I'm going to make sure that I click onto one of the edges on the top and extrude it upward. So let's click and hold. Well, it's not yet working, because if we go to the settings, this is not a simple slab. So we're going to make it a simple slab. And once we have done that, you can see it sinks in, but we want to change the reference, which you can do here on the reference plane location, and click that. You can see that now it extrudes upward. So we want to click on one of those edges such that we can be able to move this up above to something like, I need, the first block is about to be about 7 meters, I guess 7 meters of the height, just that block. And that means that now we are done with the first one. Now we want to create the second one, which has this kind of form, a U-shaped kind of thing. And we're going to use the slab for that, which is the same slab. So we're going to make a copy of this, Ctrl-Shift-D, and we will put it somewhere there to leave some space in between. And then we are going to have this to be a little bit bigger, depending according to the reference. We have it coming a bit closer to this side and as well to the back. Yeah, and we make a copy of it and go ahead, put it there. And this time this is going to be shorter, so clicking on the top, we can make this about 3 meters as well to signify story height. And we will extrude this to the back somewhere right there. I think that should be able to do. And as well, I feel like this is a little bigger than I intended it to be, so this is a bit much smaller, so I'm going to reduce this a little bit. Yeah, like so. I'm pretty happy with that. And this as well. And as well, we need to have a copy of this at the back, which is a much smaller copy here, and it needs to be smaller than that. Okay, something like so, which is pretty nice. Now we want to be able to create this sort of floatings, I may want to call them floatings, yeah, these forms which are shredded kind of. And in order to do that, let's stick to the slab. We want to keep this simple because it's a conceptual model. So I'm going to reduce this to almost half, and I'm going to make a copy of this, put it right there, and take this down. And I'm going to take this height down to somewhere there and move this back to align for now. And let's make another copy just to go up. And this time we're going to make this the shredding, or the small tiny stuff that goes all the way to the top. Just extrude things around. And we're going to put the spacing between something like 300, I guess. Yep, pretty happy with this, though this could be a bit smaller. So let's go ahead and do that. If you wanted to make like multiple copies, there's a shortcut for that, but for now I think this is not so much, so we are going to just do Ctrl-Shift-D our entire life through to somewhere here. I think this is where we should stop, so I'm gonna pick also these and tell them to stop at the back somewhere here. And it's better to do it with the blue line, which is the editing line of this slab. And I'm pretty happy with this right here. Great. All right, now we are on the next part of this assignment, which is to create this glass facade, which is right here, which has some framing going on and some of that glass. So how are we going to achieve that? Well, let's begin with a slab like we did before. Well, before we continue, we can observe that this is much taller than this and that, so we might as well want to do that first by selecting this and taking it higher. And I believe it should be like what, 9 meters? Doesn't matter, it's just a conceptual model, so as long as we can have a height that's acceptable, that surely will do. So great, now we need that form which is for the glass, so we'll make a Ctrl-Shift-D, take it up by 3 meters, which should signify the height of that story. And I'm going to offset it Well, first of all, we need to make it 3 meters high because it's 1 story. Great. And now we can take this back to somewhere here, and it needs to extrude to a certain position. Like you can see here, you can see that it extrudes out a little bit. And then we take this back, and this one as well, we have to take it back. And we have ourselves some interesting forms here. So I think we may need to claim a little bit here. And there we are. We take it all the way to the back, and it wraps around and continues all the way the journey to this other side. So let's continue that form. How do we do that? By clicking on the edge, and we get this plate palette where we can add to the form by clicking, and then let's add it to right there. You can see that now we have added that form, and as well we can add one more form by making sure that we are adding to polygon, and we say that there we are. But it cantilevers as well if we looked at the reference, so this has to come out. So we do just that by offsetting a single edge by some meters. Yeah, that's more like what we expected. Now, with this selected, I'm going to make this glass by saying glass, and there we are. And if you did not want to have these nodes, you can move them. So I'm going to move them all the way to the end because sometimes they can be problematic, just to have a clean shape that doesn't have these nodes right here. And why am I doing that? Because we're going to put some framing, and this framing we're going to use a beam tool. So with the beam tool selected, I'm going to space click it here, but you can see it's way too big, so we might need to change its size. So I'm going to go here in the cross-sectional size and click on to link all of them. So we're going to use like about 100 for our case, and space click in order to paste that in, and that looks quite good. And space click also at the bottom, and we have ourselves the framing. Next is the vertical ones, which should be done using the column tool for that. So let's pick the column, and like we did for the beams, we might want to change the size to make it 100 as well, to have a uniform frame. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in, and you can see it fits perfectly, except that it's a bit short, so it needs to get all the way up to that. And in order to use the same beam, I may need to alt click in order to pick that beam, and I'm gonna pick that column, and I'm gonna put it right there. Very cool. And I come and put it at that corner. Pretty awesome. We go to the next and put it there, and finally we put it right there. And just like that, we have ourselves this pretty looking form ready to export to twinmotion. But before we go, we also need somewhere to put our gardening or the plants. So you can see we have some plants here and here, and we created a small planter section for them. So how do we achieve that? Well, let's just make these simple slabs. I'm gonna make it, yeah, that size will do, and making sure that I change the reference to the all the way up. I meant across the surface, so we can do that with that reference. Great. Holding down shift, and we can now offset this. It's offset by in both sides by about 100. Great. And let's subtract this form. Negative to subtract. Oops, we subtracted the wrong form, but we just want that inward, and we have subtracted it. But in order to appreciate it, we might need to reduce the height of this. So I'm gonna pick a height which is somewhere there, and there you are. Now that looks like more of a planter. And with this selected, we may want to duplicate this to the other side as well, somewhere right there. Okay, that's pretty awesome. So now we are ready to take this to twinmotion. So let's head over to twinmotion. In order to link archicad to twinmotion, you may need to download a datasmith. It's called datasmith. You can find it at the twinmotion website. And when you come back to archicad, you will find it in window palettes, I believe, and it's all the way to the bottom right here, datasmith. And this is what it looks like. It's a tab with a few options here, and the first one is the one we need right now. So we just hit direct link, and this should send this information to twinmotion. So let's head over to, I'm going to go ahead and open twinmotion. We're going to import here in twinmotion, and we're going to import, let's see, in direct link. It's not yet captured, so let's go back to archicad. Let's name our file. Let's first save our file first, such that archicad doesn't lose this information. Let's say concept form. Yeah, that would do. And once I say okay, now it has been saved. So we need to be able to hit direct link, and when we head over to twinmotion, we should be able to see, we can see here direct link, and what the one we want is the concept form, which is one we have just named, and let me say import it. And right now you can see it has been imported. Now if you are not able to see your model when you first open twinmotion, you might want to go here and select your model, which is right here, everything here. So if I toggle it off, you can see that it disappears. But with this selected and you hit F, it will come to your viewport. So now that we have it right here, we want to begin the process. One is we want to remove everything else because we want to concentrate on that model. So let's hide this ground and as well hide that background by going into settings here and go to location, I believe, because that's where we will go to backgrounds and just change to none. So now we don't have any background, and we want to now affect these materials of ours, which is pretty simple. We need just a few materials, which is going to be glass. So we pick glass and put it where it's supposed to be. Don't forget to open it. Yes, there you are. So right there. If you wanted to give it a tint, for example, if I observe what is on this render, it has a little bit of a blue tint. So in order to achieve that in twinmotion, I'm gonna have to change the color here to that bluish thing. So take this back and as well take this to the dark side. So this kind of color, yeah. And that should be if I increase, you can see that that should show up. But let's leave the opacity at around 30 something. Now we need to also work on this glass. So that frame, and for that frame, let's go to metal and pick this very first one, brushed aluminium. This will do. And if we want it to be a little darker, we might want to take this down. Yeah, so let's take it to have a darker tint, and pretty happy with that. Next is this concrete thing going on. So for that, we just want it to be a white model. It has concrete because that's what was present in the very first time we added the things in archicad. We had a concrete material on that thing. So let's go ahead and pick one of the walls, and I believe any could work, and it doesn't matter even if you used this, and we can paint it white. We can change this to white. So I like to make this F. You know what? I like an alternate material. Let's pick something else. Let's pick this. I think I like this, the look of that, the texture of it. So let's change this to white. So in order to change it to white, you can eyeball it, but all I like to do is to put in its color code. I believe it's F 6 times, so triple F, and that should be white. Yeah, there you are. And we need to also increase the scale of it, because if I zoom in, you can see it's a little bit smaller than it should be. Yeah, maybe there. That's much more pronounced, so at a further distance we shall be able to appreciate that. And as well, I like to add in some grunge. So in here, let's add in a little bit of grunge to add some imperfection on the surface, look a little bit more realistic. Just some grunge, about 20-something% should be able to work. And as well, okay, the bump is up to 100%, which is totally fine. And now let's add in some objects here, because now we are through with the material. So let's add some objects, and I'm going to pick vegetation, and here we have bushes. So let's go pick like a vegetation here, and I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple of them to populate in this planter zone. Cool. And we go over also the same thing on this other side. So go ahead and fill here with some vegetation, and as well we need one big one which should be in trees. So under the category of trees, let's pick like human scale. Yeah, this is so much better, but it's interfering with the building. We might need to make it shorter. Yeah, let's sync it as well. We don't want it to interrupt our design. And as well, these look way taller than they should be. So I'm gonna pick all of them and deselect this one and move them just down a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. And there we are. So now let's put in some human characters. Simple. Let's pick posed human characters. And I'm going to pick from some Africans here. So let's see what Africans we have. We have this guy, and he looks like he could use somewhere here, looking at the building as he's crossing by. And let's pick a guy like this one, put him inside here, let him walk on this surface. And like we did before, we might want to choose this material and drop it in the same area, because we just want one material. Let's continue with the human beings. I think we need a person entering into that area. Let's pick a lady. There she is, and let's put her right there and make her face the building as well. Awesome. So there we are. We have ourselves that kind of setup. So let's set up our camera, and in order to do that, I'd like to have a part where I see at the top something like that. Yes, something like that. So I will extend backward because I want to crop in a bit with my camera settings. So let's just create this image, and under settings of the camera, I want to increase the focal length. So let me increase it to something like 50 millimeters. Maybe that too much, maybe 35. Yeah, this will do. So now we can change the view a little bit, something like that, which looks pretty cool. And we go back, and don't forget to refresh the view such that it captures what we have just selected. And this is cool. Now let's add some lights. Well, we do that by going to lights here in the library. Let's pick the omnidirection light, and this is gonna work for us in here. Let's put it at the ceiling. Great. And well, the attenuation, maybe I need it to be like 10 meters. Yeah. I needed to eliminate a bigger space. Maybe that's too much. Maybe 7. That would do. Let's make a copy of it and have it in this space. Make instances actually, not copies, because I need them to be the same intensity. Yes, there you are. I have 2 of them in this house and 1 more here. And let's change their temperature a little bit. Let's change their temperature to hot, just hot. Because I believe if we change them, all right, yeah, something like below here, yellowish kind of. And let's move them down a bit, yeah, because I need them to illuminate this space. Okay, great. And now we have cells. We can increase the intensity of them a little, 500 for now. And in order to appreciate them, we may need to fiddle with the lighting. So let's go to lighting options and try to fiddle here. First of all, it's a bit too exposed, so I may need to have some negatives. Let me use -1. Yes, something like that. And let me also use notice this frame is not colored, so I'm going to pick this and drop it on that frame. And for some reason it doesn't exist. Well, we might need to fix that in archicad, so I'm gonna go ahead and fix that real quick. And you can see, yeah, sometimes such stuff happens. It exists here, but it doesn't exist in the model. So I'm going to delete it, direct update, and Control Z to have it back and update again. Hopefully that should fix. I know, I think it's a bug or something. Yeah, it's right here. So now let's pick this material and drop it in here. Pretty happy. Go back to the lighting settings. Let's go more, and here let's reduce to maybe like a 0.45 because we want to appreciate that, and the intensity as well. I'm gonna pick like F5, and for the lighting, instead of leaving it to dynamic, I'm going to use a skylight HDRI. This is a skylight. It's one of the skylights that exist in twinmotion, and yeah, that looks way better, so much better. And in the skylight we can change its orientation, create some awesome lighting. Yeah, I do like how the forms form those shadows right there, and we can't seem to see the lighting on the inside of the second, so I'm going to reposition them by sending them within, and perhaps the intensity is not big enough. Maybe we may need to break instance such that we affect this differently. This should be 500, and these can be a little bigger, can be big, so much bigger. Okay, whatever, because they are in a bigger space. Okay, there you are. So we already have something interesting. So in order to get these human beings to be and the trees to be as in the reference model, we may need to use what we call clear render. So it's an option which you can get if we go to camera settings. Under visual effects, we have something called clear render. So we enable that, and you can see everything turns clay, but we want that to be only on the vegetation. So let's remove it from others. We remove it from the rest of the stuff. Even when we don't have it, we just need them on the characters, yes, and not on glass as well. Yeah, the vegetation and characters should be that color, and of course you can tweak that color to whatever you so wish to see, and that looks cool. Really, I think I am gonna go with that. Looks pretty cool. And that's how we do this thing. I kind of prefer a camera angle right here, so I'm going to update this image to have this camera angle, and I'm going to put this and see what we get. So let's go start export, and let's render it and see what we get. And this is what you actually get, and I am very happy. Oh God, this is awesome, isn't it? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.